Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You are on the Ultimate Fan Experience. I am your host, the Ultimate Fan. And today, I got the news. I got 610 radio news on my show today. Sean Pendergast, how are you, sir?
Ultimate, I am doing great. We're just two guys with championship belts. Just chopping it up today, man.
That's what we're all about.
I'm excited for this. I've been seeing the podcast all over the place.
Appreciate it.
Love being in here, man. A little surreal to be in here.
Right?
Man, you and I, we've been friendly for a few years now, but I knew about you long before you and I became friends. So
right.
I always admired your vibe and your commitment to it, man. And just like you are one of the faces of the Texans fan base without a doubt, man. So
I try to be the NRG and NRG.
Absolutely.
You know? So
congrats on all your success, man.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much, man. Thanks for coming on, man. I've been, to tell you the truth, this is one of the episodes I've been waiting on. We've talked about it a few times, like, man, I need you to come on. You're like, dude, let me know.
Yeah.
Our conflicts of schedule or whatever, but now we got it in. And
Made it happen, man.
Making it happen, man. Well, we're just going to start this off, man. I found out a few things about yourself, but I kind of already knew a little bit about this. Let's just start off with, you're on 610 radio, but it wasn't always that. I mean, radio was not like your thing, man. That wasn't like your niche.
No, well, I'm not classically trained. Let's put it that way. I didn't go to broadcasting school.
Right.
I'm a radio junkie. Now, I grew up listening to sports talk radio. I grew up in the Northeast, where WFAN in New York was the first big sports station.
Okay.
First big all-sports station. So I grew up about 2 hours from there. So I grew up listening to sports talk radio, love sports talk radio. Moved here in 1994 when I was 24 years old. I was in sales.
Okay.
I got out of college. Most salespeople, they either don't go to college or they go to college and don't know what the hell they want to do when they get out, so they go into sales.
Right.
So that's what I did.
Okay.
I moved down here to Houston in 1994, and I'm like, dang, where's the all-sports radio station? I need mine. This is Houston. Do we have one? And when I first moved here, they didn't have one. And a week later, Sports Radio 610 flipped formats and became an all-sports station.
All right.
It was like a message from the gods, man.
And then 2 years later, the Houston Texans, the Houston Oilers at the time, left.
Yeah,
so
left.
There goes your football talk.
There goes your football talk, exactly. So, but I was a big listener to Sports Radio 610 when they first flipped and when I first got here. And then Jim Rome came on Sports Radio 610 in 1997, and Rome was huge here. And I was in my late 20s at that point, and I started calling the Jim Rome show. I was listening to these callers calling Jim Rome. I'm like, I think I can do that. I think I can talk trash like these guys can, right? Have a take, don't suck. And so anybody who listens to Rome knows that a big part of the ethos of his show is the Smack Off, annual Smack Off, where they invite the best callers, like 30 callers, run our mouths for 3 minutes apiece.
Just give it all.
And you give it, and you try to win. And back then you didn't win anything other than just bragging rights to all the other radio dorks out there, right? But I ended up winning that thing 5 times.
Man.
And
And I remember the last time you were on there, man, you were killing it.
Yeah.
You were killing it.
And I became friendly with a lot of the guys at 610 at the time. That was when Lance Zierlein and John Granado were doing the morning show, and I got to be friendly with them. Still in a fantasy football league with them to this day that we started in 97. Yeah. But through that whole time, man, I actually moved away from Houston in 01 and moved to Denver, and I moved to Chicago. I was getting promoted within my other life, like my professional life. I was getting promoted, and I was running sales for my whole company in 2007. And I'll give the shorter version of the story, but I got let go from my job in 2007 in sales. I was running sales for the entire company that I helped start up. Wow. And we got bought. And the same day that I got fired, living in Chicago, was the same day that I got the phone call to offer me my first job in radio. Wow. At 1560 The Game. And it was from Chance McClain and John Granado both called me. They were leaving 610 at the time to go start up 1560. And those guys had always told me, like, hey, you should try radio sometime. Man, I think you'd be good at it. I said, I don't know. Maybe someday, if I can afford to take the massive pay cut to get an entry-level radio job, maybe I'll do it. But they happened to catch me on the day I got fired, at a time where I was going through a divorce. They caught me in February of 2007 in Chicago, too. It was minus 11 degrees outside that day. If they had called me to tell me about this new radio station, which I would have to move back to Houston for. If they had caught me a month earlier or a month later, I probably would have said no, just because it was such a major risk. But they caught me literally like on my lowest day. Lost my job, marriage falling apart. It's butt cold. I hate Chicago, and I hate Chicago still to this day. And
the cold does suck.
Yeah, and so that's how that was my break into radio. I literally packed the essentials that I needed in a U-Haul, drove to Houston, got an apartment, and told myself I'm going to give myself 6 months. And if I feel like after 6 months I'm not good at this, then I'll just drive back to Chicago and get a job in sales. And that was in 2000. That was January 1st, 2008. So that was how I broke into radio, man. Like, it was, a lot of it had to do with the Jim Rome show. A lot of it, thank God that Houston was a market that could, at least for a time, sustain 4 sports radio stations. Yeah. That's why, like, to bring it back around to the Texans, that's why, like, the day that Bob McNair passed away, everybody's got reflections on what the Texans mean to them. Yeah. And I know you felt that way that day, I'm Absolutely. Sure. Everybody's got different reasons they feel a certain way, other than the fact that Bob McNair was a great humanitarian and an amazing business person. Yeah. If he had not brought the Texans to Houston, I wouldn't be in radio. Because there would have been no need for 4 sports radio stations in town back in 2007. In a city without an NFL team. Yeah. There probably wasn't a need for 4 at the time anyways, but there sure as hell wouldn't have been a need for 3 right. or 2 maybe even. Right. And so I'm that's my reflection is always, I'm so thankful that he had the entrepreneurial and just venture spirit right. to bring the team here, because I don't have a radio career without him. Right.
Man, I mean, the fortitude alone, just bringing, that was, I know it was a hard thing for him to do, and when he did it, nobody expected it was going to be what it is now, right? The Houston Texans,
right? Playing. And I'm sure he's smiling down right now Absolutely. With where this team. I know we're going to talk about the team and whatnot, but sure. Then I got over to 610 in 2014. That was once I got into radio, my goal 2 years in was I got to get over to 610. Yeah. It's the gold standard in town. They have the Texans, right? Money was certainly a factor in all this. I could make more money over there. So I got there in 2014. One of my goals was to do either pregame or postgame for the Texans when I got there. I'm doing both now. Right. And my other goal was to eventually be in mornings, which happened in 2019 when they put me and Seth together in mornings. So my goal when I got into radio in 2007, because I had a lot of people ask me that. They're like, man, this is a big pay cut you're taking. Yeah. You got kids that are going to be in Chicago and you're going to be in Houston, you're going to be an absentee dad and you're going to be making a lot less money and you're going to have alimony and all these things. And I just didn't care at the time, man. Yeah. Like, I knew that if I didn't say yes to taking that chance, right, that I would hate myself for at least not trying it. But so a lot of people ask me, like, so where are you going? Like, where are you going with this? You can't just show up every day because it's fun to do radio. And I said, my goal is to be the morning host at Sports Radio 610. And there you go. So that took 12 years.
Hey, man.
But I got there.
And the thing about it is you never worked a day since.
I am so thankful every day, man. I think about that, driving home from work, driving around, doing stuff like this. Yeah. Like, this is my life, man. Yeah. Like, it's awesome. I'm
going to tell you what, man, doing this podcast and to tell you the truth, this past weekend, walking around the stadium and stuff and hearing people come up and tell me, like, dude, I love the podcast. Keep it going, man. Your guests are great. I'm really enjoying it. I've had a blast doing this, man. It's just, I get to talk to cool guys like yourself and, and some of the players and hell, Cal and Hannah, I mean, I never thought in a million years I was going to get those two to come on.
They're awesome. I know you called into the post-game show this past game, and we I kind of teased that I would be coming in here with you today, acknowledging fully, like, it's really hard to follow, certainly in Hannah's shoes. No disrespect to Cal. No, none. Cal's whatsoever. That steady hand that kind of sits there and just he answers what he needs to, man. But Hannah, she's the straw that stirs the drink, dude.
And she jumped on one of them, and he was like, well, hold on a second. What about Case? Yeah. Case is like, and he's like, touche kind of thing. She's like, oh, okay. They are an awesome duo. They really are. I mean, you have the nicest guy in the world, man. And every time I see him and I point at him and he flexes at me, it's just a warm feeling. And then, of course, every time I see her, now she's all like, oh, what's up, Ohio boy? And I'm okay with that, because I am Ohio boy, and that's all right. And I love that she even acknowledges the person that I am or whatever.
She loves reminding people who aren't from here sometimes that they're not from here.
And that's okay.
Ask Ron Hughley, who hears about the Kansas City Chiefs every time I think Hannah runs into him. It's really funny. I'm super happy for that, not to jump around all over the place, but I'm super happy for the two of them, that the team is going in the direction that it is. Right. Their whole family, really. Like, it's really neat.
Yeah. Well, Here's a question for you.
Okay.
So we talking about radio or whatever.
Yeah.
Give me your worst and best about being on the radio. What's the worst thing that you like? Man, I just can't. I just don't like that about radio.
I love social media. I love it when it's applied and used correctly.
Yeah.
But there is an expectation now with people that you're available 24/7. That if they tweet you or they message you or they're expecting some sort of engagement or interaction all the time. And that can be a lot. That can be a lot like on a relationship. You know what I mean? If I'm on my phone and I should be more present for my wife.
Yeah.
So that's probably that may be the hardest thing would be that. As far as like the stuff that I love about this job, that's a long list, man.
Oh, I'm sure.
That's a long list. And I think for me, my favorite thing that I do in my job is Texans game day.
Of course.
Because I love the process of it, right? So I do pregame and postgame. I get to the stadium at 8 o'clock in the morning. I've got a routine. Well, actually, my routine is I go to Avalon Diner at 7 o'clock. I get my breakfast.
There you go.
I get in my truck. I put my playlist on for game day. Got Cody Rhodes theme music.
There you go.
I've got Judas by Chris Jericho, Fozzy.
Okay, there you go.
I've got Boys of Fall by Kenny Chesney. Got a couple other songs on there. So that gets me, I live in Upper Kirby, so that gets me my 10 or 12 minutes to get to the stadium. I always go see John Harris right before the pregame show. He's in his little studio there. I get there about 8:30, and I just make sure that I got my mind right and that all my takes that I have, I run it through the John Harris filter. If he thinks I'm crazy, then I'm definitely crazy. But I love talking to Johnny because he's my first co-host in radio. He's one of my very best friends. And then the pregame starts at 9. It's so fun now because people are so much back into it.
Yeah.
When you're out there, you know.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man.
The game is fun. I love the game day because we have a whole row of seats up in the press box, the 610 guys do. Yeah. And all of us are there every game, and it's like watching a game with your buddies.
Right.
We're cracking jokes, and we're all taking notes.
Yeah, I was going to say, because
I post my notes.
You can't remember everything.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I see some of your notes. I'm like, I couldn't even read that scribble if I wanted to.
Yeah. And then the post-game show is a lot of fun because the best part about that is that Clint Sterner and I get to be the first ones to get our opinions out there about what just happened. Nice. We get to plant our flag in a lot of opinions. So that's really cool, too. The part for me as somebody who, again, I wasn't trained to do radio, never dreamed when I was in my 20s even that I would be doing this today. The mornings where I get to walk, and I know you've been down there before, Ultimate, like the concourse down by where the locker room is, the kind of you walk around to get, to get from the west side of the stadium over to the south side in Bud Light Plaza. And I'm walking through, and I'm kind of bringing my roller bag with me, and I'm like, man, I am walking through the bowels of an NFL stadium getting ready to be a really big part of people's day. Not really big. I mean, not as big as obviously.
Walking through the Coliseum, in Rome kind of thing.
Yeah,
you're getting ready for a battle.
But somewhere that people don't get to go. Like the average fan doesn't ever get to walk down here. And you're walking past occasionally a player, a coach, all kinds of people from the Texans, cheerleaders walk by and stuff like that. It's very quiet down there, but it's all people who you have to have access to be down there. And that's the part of the day for me. I'm like, man, I can't believe this is the life I'm living right now, man. This is just so cool. And I say I'm about to be a big part, obviously not nearly as big a part as everything going on the field, but Seth and I are about to be the storytellers for the next 2.5 hours for the pregame. Right. Clint Sterner and I are going to be the storytellers after the game. Yeah. And that's it's a big responsibility, I think. I'm always really honored that the Texans want me to be doing that. Right. But that's my favorite thing, man. Game day with the Texans is it's the longest day because I get there at 8 and I don't usually get home till about 8 because I have a podcast that I do, the Utopia podcast, and I do that afterwards. But it's the best, man. Like,
and it's funny
people would pay to do what we do.
Absolutely. I mean, and actually, I pay for it myself. Because my day doesn't veer far from that. You know what I'm saying? I'm up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, putting on my paint, getting ready to go. My, of course, the Ultimate Warrior theme music is that, and of course, the What a Rush by the the Road
the
Warriors.
Road Warriors.
You got to get that. You just got to get that going or whatever. And
so you got your music going while you're getting ready.
While I'm getting ready, it's like the Ultimate fan music's kind of hitting in the back sometimes, and so it's when I'm on like an intense game like this one. Buffalo was an intense game for me, and everybody's like, give me your prediction, Ultimate, do this, and I'm like, listen, I don't give predictions, but I want to get that dub. This is how I've always been, I feel like every time I give a prediction, I give it away, and I don't like doing that, but And as soon as I get to the stadium, I'm on, and I'm on until I leave. And sometimes I don't, the game might be over at 3, but by the time I get to my truck, it's 4 or 5 o'clock, and then I got a 45-minute drive home, and that's kind of my release, that's kind of but of course, on the way home, I'm sitting there getting ready to talk to you on the radio because I was like, man, I just got to get this out, man. I had to say something about that, and of course, giving a little shout out to Larry from Stafford, man. I love that dude, man. That dude, every time he gets fired up, man.
Yeah. Larry's a good friend, man. Like I'm so happy for all of you guys, like all the diehards, man.
Yeah.
Like I said that back when the night they drafted CJ and Will. And then when you could tell last season was going the way it was, I'm like, man, these are the people. I've said it on the air. Like the people I'm most happy for, the ones who stuck it out through the ones that were there for like the David Culley year every week, because not that people were happy about what was going on, but you're loyal, and I love seeing the loyalty rewarded, man.
And I appreciate it, man, because it is there, man. Well, let's get into this little thing I call this segment of just first words, right? Okay. So I'm going to give you a word. And we're going to go off of that word, and you're just going to tell me the first thing that pops into your head, and just let me have it, man. Okay. I want to know what you really feel, man. So,
are these about you?
Not about me.
Okay, gotcha.
Well, I mean, we might put one in there.
I feel like you think I'm going to say, like, I'm going to come at you on this or something like that.
You know what? You would be one of the first people to ever just come at me. So.
Yeah. Oh, trust me. I don't want this to get physical. It won't go well for me. You'll get hit. You'll get a belt. Yeah. You'll get a belt shot.
You might not walk out of there with that belt,
right,
though.
Man.
But, all right, Titan fans.
I know what Seth would say if he were here, and I'm not going to be that way on this podcast. Imposters, posers, and this was probably for the Titan organization as well, but just I don't view Nashville like as a football city. I feel like they got this zombie version of our team down there, and I just think it's so phony, the whole honoring of the oil. It is one person's cosplay, Amy Adams Strunk. That's what the whole organization is. So the fans are, the by proxy, fake organization, fake ownership. By proxy, as a Titan fan, you're a poseur. Yeah. And plus, Will Levis is their quarterback. It's. I
don't know any Titans in Nashville.
I ain't scared of them. Let me put it that way.
Especially not this year. Yeah. So, you can bring that New Year's game or whatever you want to bring in. I don't care. C.J. Stroud.
Elite.
100%.
Godsend. Mature beyond his years. Yeah. The future, there's so many things I can say about CJ. I got to do an event with CJ back in late March. Yeah, we did a sit-down interview for Christus Foundation for Health. It's a charitable health organization that does amazing things here in the Houston area. So the event was at River Oaks Country Club. A lot of very wealthy people paid a lot of money to sit down and watch me and CJ do a fireside chat for an hour. And I'll tell you an interesting story that came out of that. I played word association with him. Okay. Right? So I did it with a lot of his teammates. So Tank and Nico and Laramie and his mom, important people in his life. Yeah. And he was great. I also asked him, man, put me in your shoes the night of the draft. Oof. And just, I want to go through, and I kind of walked him through the draft that night. Yeah. And okay, the first thing that happened was Bryce gets drafted. What was going through your head? And he's like, I was really happy for Bryce. They knew each other from California. The most interesting part of it, Ultimate, was I said, okay, now you're sitting there and the Texans are on the clock and you're waiting. And I said, what was going through your head? He said, I didn't think the Texans liked me.
Really?
He didn't think he was getting drafted by the Texans. Wow. He didn't think he was getting drafted by the Texans. And I said, why didn't you think they liked it? What's not to like?
Yeah, right.
And he said, I don't know. He said, just Nick Caserio just plays things very close to the vest, which I could totally see.
Yeah, and he's done that all.
Nick doesn't let you know what he's thinking, even when you're because they don't have to recruit him. It's a draft. If CJ were a free agent, then maybe you're in sales mode. Yeah. But Nick and D'Amico are in fact-finding mode or vibing it out mode with CJ. He didn't think. He said, I thought I could go anywhere from 2 to 10. And I didn't think the Texans. Yeah, and I didn't think the Texans were going to take me at 2. And they did, and he was ecstatic. Of course. He was really looking forward to coming here. But I thought that was really interesting that he didn't think the Texans liked him when he's sitting there at 2, and then the phone rings and it's a 281 or 713 or whatever it is. I think he's an amazing person.
Yeah.
I think he's just, for a guy who just like physically he's impressive compared to the average human being, but compared to some of these other quarterbacks that look like they just jumped out of some sort of simulation program, some sort of, like Anthony Richardson, you look at him, you go, that guy doesn't look like he belongs on the same planet with us.
Right.
And some of the other guys are like that too. CJ's not like that.
Yeah.
But he does things that are like that.
Yeah.
Like so that throw he made against the Bills.
Oh,
where
Nico was
the dime he threw to Nico.
That was a dime.
The dime he threw to Nico. I think this one went to Diggs, though, and I saw it on social media. It was like an all-22 view of it, like from behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
He's getting hit as he's throwing. You know the throw I'm talking about? Hit as he throws. His arm got hit.
Right.
And it was still a missile that shot off his hand.
It's got to be that stuff that he does. I mean, it's just some of the things that I see him doing when he's training and stuff. It's like you don't see other quarterbacks doing that. I mean, he's not doing the Dak shuffle or whatever that thing is or whatever. But he's shooting a basketball up in the air and things like that. I mean, I'm like, but it works for him.
Yeah.
Whatever works for him, brother, just keep doing it, CJ.
It was really funny. I'll tell you one other CJ story, and this one wasn't from the fireside chat. This is when we were sitting down, he and I and David Mulugeta ate together in the green room at this event while everybody else is eating out there, getting ready for the two of us to come out there. We got to hang out and break bread for a little bit. And I said, hey, one of my hot takes in the offseason was, hey, it's going to be a big adjustment for the Texans having to play all these primetime games this year. You know, last year was noon Sunday. You can really get into a routine.
Yeah.
Now I was projecting because I'm a very routine-driven person.
Absolutely.
You know, like I love having a routine. So I said to CJ, I'm like, are you worried at all? Like now that, like, I know it's cool because the schedule hadn't come out at that point. That was the day we did that was the day they found out that they were playing in the Hall of Fame game.
Oh, yeah.
So he's like, yeah, man, I just found out my summer vacation got cut short today by a week. But I said, are you concerned at all? Like that you guys maybe got into a routine last year and that now you're going to be all over the place.
Yeah.
And then their schedule is all over the place this year, as all over the place as any schedule for any team I've ever seen, given those games around Christmas time. He's like, no, he was looking at me like I had two heads. He's like, no, I went to Ohio State. I love playing at 7:30 at night. You know, like I love playing at 3:30. And that was where, like, okay, that's my disconnect with me and an elite quarterback.
Yeah.
He wants the rock in front of 18 million people. And he doesn't care that breakfast is at 2 p.m, not 9 a.m. or whatever, you know.
And I tell you what, that gauntlet we're fixing to go through, too, at the end of the season it's going to be crazy.
And that's going to decide the MVP of the league, in my opinion.
Absolutely. 100%.
That little round-robin junket in 4 days that has
Kansas City.
Yes, it's got Mahomes, it's got Lamar Jackson, and it's got C.J. Stroud. The Steelers are in there too, so they won't have any MVP candidates, but they're a formidable foe for each of those other two teams.
Right.
But I said it before the season that if the season unfolds the way I think it will, and so far it has, I thought they'd go 6-2 in the first 8 games.
Yeah.
And then those 3 primetime games in a row, I think, are where the season kind of gets decided. Is this going to be a season where the Texans run away with the division, or are they going to be battling for a wild card? Those 3 games. But let's pretend that they're in the mix there at the end. Playing Mahomes and Lamar Jackson within 4 days of each other is such a massive opportunity for him. Yeah. You know, it's such a crazy opportunity that I think
say a lot.
If he wins those 2 games, he will be the MVP of the league. He's number 2 on the odds board as we speak behind Mahomes right now.
Right, I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
And it was like, you know, Pat McAfee and them, the guys, were talking today. CJ was on the show today.
Yeah, he was great.
And, you know, of course, he's hamming it up with them, you know, and I love it. First and foremost, CJ, I love that he's a faith-based man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, he does give all the glory to God.
Yep.
And
he's real.
Yeah, he is real. It's not a show that he puts on and everything. He is a very faith-based man, and I love that about him because I feel sometimes that's what football needs. You know what I'm saying? It's not all about, you know, cracking skulls and being. Sometimes it's about being humbled and being, you know, and being faithful. Yes. You know, and so I love that about him.
Yeah.
But to see him go on the show and, you know, and Pat asked him like, so, you know, like jitters, you know, nervous or whatever. He's like, nah, man, this is what I do. You know, this is, you know, I'm confident in what I do. I'm confident that I'm going to make this throw. You know, I'm ready for it. Anything that comes my way, he goes, I make myself ready for it.
Yeah, we all probably have one. Like my moment of epiphany where like, oh my God, this guy's our quarterback.
Yeah.
Was the Tampa Bay game last year CJ will tell you that when he first started feeling like I got this NFL thing, not like I got it, like I got this thing, but when he first started like feeling like a real NFL quarterback was like that Jacksonville Pittsburgh, back-to-back early in the year because teams started treating him differently. They weren't treating him like a rookie anymore.
Right.
Though for me as a fan and someone who covers the team. For me, it was the Tampa Bay game because that was the game. That was the game where they got the ball back with 46 seconds left,
and he wasn't going against no chump either. Mayfield is,
Yeah, well, and that Tampa Bay defense has some guys too.
Absolutely.
But he threw for 470 that day, and he just went boop, 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 boop down the field, and I'm like, man. I don't know that we've ever had. I mean, Deshaun had a couple of seasons where he was really good at those late comebacks, but the defense could never hold the lead.
And now he's just walking off.
Now Deshaun's a zombie of what he was.
Yeah.
But like this, holy crap, we have one of those guys that you cannot leave him 40 seconds on the clock.
No.
I mean, we found out this week you can't leave him 17 seconds. He got the ball back, and Robert.
You sure
Woods.
don't give Fairbairn a
Right? Yeah, and you
don't
can't
give that boy a chance.
Yeah,
man. That dude's got a leg.
They've got dudes at the most important things to go win playoff style games.
100%. Let's go to this next one.
Okay.
The AFC Championship. One word for me: in the grasps. I feel like it's in our grasp.
Yeah. I feel like that for me when I hear that. To me, that's the bar will have been raised. Like that to me, unless they lose in the AFC title game in some sort of cataclysmic fashion, that's success.
Yeah.
I think that's the word that pops into my head is that would be a successful season. Again, unless they're up 28-10 at the half and they choke the game away and then you go into the offseason with all sorts of what-if feelings. But just, you're telling me blind that they're in the AFC championship game. How are you going to feel on the post-game show that night? Even more so, like you have a chance to sleep on it. How are you going to feel on Monday? Success. Like that's a successful season. And now the stakes change. The bar gets raised come 2025. It's no longer getting to the AFC title game is a success. It's, now you're a team with a quarterback in year 3, a head coach in year 3. You still have all kinds of flexibility moving forward with what you can do with the roster. You're not paying CJ yet.
Right.
I mean, 2025 is like they can win it this year. It starts to get real exciting when you start thinking about one more year of bringing more guys.
Right.
Here,
I mean, just adding to
pile on. Yeah, but I think my word would be ultimate success. I think that would constitute a successful season for me, and I think it's in the grasp too.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Dallas Cowboys.
Okay. It's funny.
Trash. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. No, It's funny. Our country station had a thing this morning. Their big question was: are Cowboy fans the worst fans in the NFL?
No,
I don't think. I don't even know that they're close. I've been to enough other stadiums and experienced enough fans coming here. I could list 5 fan bases off the top of my head that I dislike more than Cowboy fans.
Right.
I'll be honest with you. I'll just say nuisance.
Yeah,
they're a nuisance. They're an annoyance. They're not. I don't worry about them.
Yeah.
I worry about the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Right. I worry that one of the teams in the AFC South is going to figure it out at quarterback, and now the division becomes harder these next year.
Yeah.
And that would actually be kind of fun, right? Like I was so counting on this draft class of quarterbacks. Levis and Richardson and CJ and Trevor Lawrence heading into year 3 that this is going to be so fun in the division, and CJ's the only one holding up his end of the bargain in all of it.
Yeah.
But back to the Cowboys, I just don't think about them very much.
I don't either. They're the team up north for me.
I don't. They don't infringe.
There's one day that I'll think about them this year, and that's when we play them.
November 18th. That's it. I feel good about that game.
I do too.
Yeah. Are you going?
Great. My plan is to go. I mean, the price of tickets right now is outrageous, but my plan is to go.
People.
Kyle Hannon.
Yeah, man.
No, I mean, I just, I want to go there. I went up there the year Arian went off. And I mean, granted, we walked
14.
out of that with an L. Yeah, we walked out.
That was
of
the one where
JJ
whiffed on Tony Romo.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
He'd love to have that tackle back.
He talked about it last week on one of the shows.
I think him and Romo, they put him in the same room together, and he was just like, he goes, he was dead meat. Like I had him dead to rights, and it just but that was Romo. Romo was always that kind of guy. You know what I'm saying?
I think Tony Romo was underrated.
Much as I didn't really ever like the Cowboys, for whatever reason it may be, you got to give guy Romo. He was the fourth quarter guy. Man.
He was. I was a Tony Romo fan. I like the Cowboys. Just there's nothing threatening about them. You know what I mean? They committed to Dak, which I get, but Dak's not a guy. He's a good quarterback, but he's not like an assassin.
Yeah.
And Jerry Jones, as long as he's running the team, I think they're going to probably draft really well, but make a lot of very questionable decisions when it comes to taking care of those guys. Who knows what's going to happen with Micah Parsons in the future here? Like that just kind of flew under the radar all offseason. Like
you got CD Lamb not happy right now. So
and he's gotten paid and he's not happy.
Right.
So I don't think about them very much, to be honest with you. Yeah.
So let me ask you this: with the trade pickups and before the deadline, could the Texans make something that would just make us nearly unbeatable?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think some of it we got. The trade deadline's like week 9 this year. I know they pushed it back a little bit. I think some of it you got to wait and see what the health looks like for the team. This Nico hamstring thing is a little concerning. They didn't put him on an IR, so that's a good sign that it's going to be less than 4 weeks. I'm trying to think of where their Achilles heel right now offensively is the offensive line.
That running
but that's a tough place to make a trade deadline deal. Right. Usually if you're making a trade deadline deal, it's for something splashier.
Right.
I think
like a running back?
A running back I think would be it to me, because I don't know, like Cam Akers is okay.
Right.
You
think we're going to see Mixon again this year?
Oh yeah,
you sure?
Yeah, I think so. I
really hope so.
I think if it was that bad, they'd have put him on IR.
Okay,
and brought in a running back. So I think we'll see Mixon. I mean, he did practice like a week ago on Friday, but for whatever reason, maybe it got worse. I don't. But I think we'll see him. But again, running. I know they love Dameon Pierce.
Yeah,
and I love Dameon Pierce. I don't know how much I love Dameon Pierce in this system. I think they like Cam Akers, but they don't love him.
Mm-hmm.
I think they really love Dare Ogunbowale, but they realize, okay, if Dare is getting 15 touches a game, that's a problem.
Right.
I compared Dare on the radio today to Mauricio Dubon with the Astros, where he's sort of a Swiss Army knife, can do a lot of things for you, and in small doses and doing little things.
Yeah.
He does enough things where some people are like, they need to play Dare more.
Yeah.
And yet, there were Astro fans like that. They should play Dubon every day.
Right.
I'm like, if you played him every day, you'd start to hate him. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain guys where that's a perfect role for them, is just the triage guy. I say all that to say they can definitely upgrade the talent in the running back room. And my guess is there will be teams that are probably looking to dump. If you're an NFL team and you can get a draft pick for a running back, like even a day 3 pick, because the position is so devalued these days.
Yeah.
So I think running back would be one. And I would say maybe a linebacker.
Okay.
We don't know what Christian Harris is at this point.
And that guy was.
They're playing nickel all the time.
Yeah.
They've got 2 linebackers on the field, literally all the time. So I think linebacker, you can never have enough bodies in the secondary. I don't trust Jimmy Ward to stay healthy. He's hurt, he's banged up again. So I think there's a handful of places that they could do something at the trade deadline. I don't think they've got a big deal in them at the trade dedeadline.
I tell you, I'm kind of surprised I haven't heard more out of Petrie this year. Like I've seen some sparks. And don't get me wrong, but I really miss that. That dude was a headhunter. You know what I'm saying? Like
well, he was and for as much as he struggled tackling his rookie year, he was getting turnovers.
Yeah,
he had 5 interceptions that year.
Right,
and he hasn't done much of that. They've got him in a really unique role playing up near the line of scrimmage, so I wonder how much of that has to do with us not seeing him do stuff in the open field as much, because he's down there in the box all the time.
Yeah.
So I like Jaylen a lot, man.
Cool.
Yeah.
So last question before we go, man. I've had you on here for a while now, man. We've been going strong.
It's all good.
But this past game with the Bills, not only with just the excitement in it, we led, everybody asked me like, oh, was it a nail biter? To tell you the truth, it wasn't a nail biter for me, because we were winning 90% of the game.
Yeah.
There was only a short time where we weren't winning.
Yep.
Teams come back, but they're like, oh, but, people, they're like, oh, but we needed a blowout. No, that's not football. Football, I mean, don't get me wrong. A good blowout here and again is great. But these close ones to me, like, that's football. That's the up and down of football. And so that's what I love about the sport. And then you could be down 1 minute and all it takes is 45 seconds or 17 seconds and you're winning a game, and it's like, all right, well, cool. But to see all of that, to have all that energy and stuff like that, but to see the new uniforms on the field for the first time this year, and to see the H in the center of the field, and to see the colors, the dark blue just taking over the stadium, and then you got the Italy blue, it's shine, and even seeing Toro a different color was actually cool. Give me your thoughts of what you think, man. I mean, because you've been through the process too. I mean, you were there when the release and the leaks and everything that with the uniform stuff. And I mean, we've gone through a lot to get to where we are now. Yep. And this past game was there. Yeah. And it was so real.
Yeah, it was really cool. We had a station event up in NRG Stadium on Wednesday last week. Yeah. We were hosting a lot of our clients up there for sort of a big, here's what our strategy is for next year. And they let us do it in the West Club up there. That happened to be the day they were painting the field. Oh, man. So that was kind of neat to see. We were almost watching the making of the new end zones and the making of the H. We got to watch, probably unauthorized, but we got to watch the whole thing. We were told not to take pictures of it. So that part was really cool. I love the new uniform. I love the two alternate uniforms. Yeah. The tweaks to the traditional uniforms are good. I think I love all four of the versions of the uniform. The two alternate uniforms to me are just so badass. Yeah. They're just so awesome. The red one, especially with the horns on the helmet, I think is just so clean, man. And that shade of red where it pops a little bit more than the old red. Yeah. I just think I can't wait to see them wear those. I just like it because it feels like it's new. Yeah. I feel like, okay, this is. I like that and I like that we're doing it in conjunction with the rise of D'Amico and CJ as the faces of the team. This really is. It really does feel like a new era of Texans football. Oh, for sure. It does feel like they. To me, one of the biggest differences with this team and this organization is just how media friendly they are. And what I mean by that is I don't mean they're nice to us. They are good to us. Yeah. What I mean by that is, man, CJ's on the McAfee show today. Yeah. Bobby Slowick's been on the McAfee show.
We couldn't even get 20 seconds on the on the NFL network.
Guys are popping up on podcasts everywhere. D'Amico is as popular a coach, which we've not been used to here for a while.
Being talked about now.
Yeah, and being talked about. But people love him. Yeah. They didn't love Bill O'Brien. They didn't have a chance to really get to know David Culley. And I think, Lovey had his ups and downs. Right. That's what I think is really cool about it, Ultimate, is that the uniforms, all these changes are being done in conjunction with actual substantive change happening with the on-field product and the people who are the faces of the on-field product. This is all happening sort of at the same time. And it's really kind of fortunate. My guess is they were getting ready to do a uniform change regardless of how the team did in 2023. This is a years-long process they go through. So there's just as good a chance that they would have been unveiling these uniforms if they didn't draft C.J. Stroud or hire D'Amico Ryans, or God forbid both, that they're unveiling these uniforms after a 5-12 season, and it's feeling like something they're doing to try to drum up interest or coerce people back into rooting for the team. Right. We know how those bad seasons went. It was you and 10 of your friends out there, man. It wasn't 70,000 people. Yeah. So that's why I'm happy about the uniform release, is that it's happening simultaneously to the franchise rising again. Yeah. And maybe rising to where they've never been before. So I think that part is really cool. My only complaint about the version that you're wearing right now.
I keep forgetting. I'm still dressed from Sunday.
Right. You smell good though, man. For a guy who hasn't showered since Sunday, you smell amazing. My only complaint is, and this is first world problems as it gets, the press box is way up high. We're up on the 8th level. It's really hard to read the numbers. The red numbers are they're really hard to read. So that's my only complaint. Yeah. It doesn't really matter to me because we have someone in the press box that within 3 seconds says tackle made by so-and-so. We're like, okay, that's who it was. I feel bad for that guy. Yeah. Because he's probably got to have the binoculars out. Exactly. But I think I think a lot of the changes, man, that this franchise has gone through and evolved, fearlessly evolved, like they like to say. Yeah. so far so good. They got to keep winning.
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing. But I think it's been great, man.
I mean, I'll take as many as they can put together.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying, and I think this is going to be a year we're all going to remember. So
yes, no doubt, already has been, man.
Yeah,
4 one-score games.
Yeah,
D'Amico Ryans 11-3 in games decided in the last minute.
Yeah,
11-3. The amazing thing about that is that he's had 14 of those and he's won 7 in a row. The last time they lost a one-score game was week 12 to Jacksonville when Amendola doinked the ball off the crossbar.
Yeah.
They've not lost a close game. They're 7-0 in close games since then. That's a skill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like people like to talk about these close games like there's randomness.
If that's what it's going to take, you know what? I'll get heart medication.
Yeah. Well, and that they're winning these games. They're winning these games a lot like the Chiefs are winning games. And so I'm not saying they're the Chiefs, obviously, but people love to talk about Mahomes. People love to talk about Stroud. The fact of the matter is the defense has been the calling card for both of these things. The Chiefs are winning these Super Bowls in part because they have Mahomes, but in a huge part because of Steve Spagnuolo and that defense. The Texans are 4-1 right now, more so because of the defense than the offense right now. So I think that's
you got a guy
that's
like
really
Stroud
cool.
Behind it.
Yeah, like that's like there's another level for CJ and the offense to get to.
For sure.
And that's what's really exciting is they're 4-1, and what was supposed to be the heartbeat of the team, their calling card, has not approached calling card status yet. And yet I think it's going to happen. They got to get guys back. They got to get Nico back. But that's what's exciting for me. Like they all say it. Like we haven't even played our best game yet. We're 4-1.
I mean, and like he said, the first time that we played, the first game that we played is where we had everybody healthy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like we've been filling in since, So it's like you've had one game to mesh with everybody and you're just adding and subtracting each week, So, but hey, these guys can keep on going. They can keep on killing it. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been on the Ultimate Fan Experience. Sean, I appreciate you coming on. It's been a blast.
Yeah, man.
It was exactly the way I thought it was going to go down, man. And so I appreciate you coming on the show.
Anytime.
But ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next week.